All right, let's talk safeties, the guys who never get the credit that they deserve. Obviously, a really important position, but due to the fact that a lot of times you're lined up off screen when you're watching the TV, they don't get the credit they deserve. But let's give them some credit here. These are the top 10 safeties in football, according to me. Number 10, I'm going with New England Patriots safety Jabril Peppers. Obviously had some good years with Cleveland, then had some good years with the Giants, but after an injury, it kind of seemed like his career was kind of middling, but really has found success with the Patriots. Last year had a good year, but this previous year was he felt like he was the Jabril Peppers of old again. I still think that his, playmaking ability is what makes him shine, and it's really been kind of a match made in heaven. Now, no Bill Belichick there. Will it continue? We'll see. But I think that, it was really cool to see him have that bounce back year, and I'm interested in seeing, where his career goes from here. Next on my list, I am still going to put Derwin James on the list, and maybe some people will disagree. He wasn't great last year. He wasn't. But look at that Chargers situation, man. I'm not going to hold it against him too much that he struggled to cover well in an area where everyone struggled to cover it well. Now, I think the reason why it's a bit more concerning than it would be for other situations is he also has the injury history, and so is it possible the injuries are kind of piling up? There's still so much upside when he plays at his best. He's still just 27 years old. I'm not willing to give up on him just yet, but I can't put him that high on the list either because of those issues, which are fair. Next on the list is former New Orleans Saints player, now Baltimore Raven. It is Marcus Williams, who, has been a really good safety for them. And I was a little worried in how the scheme fit would work going to Baltimore, but it's worked out fine. I do think he was better with the Saints, but I think he's still been really good with the Ravens. And so, yeah, he's been a top-tier coverage safety who can, they don't ask him to stop the run too much, so you don't have to worry about that too much. Definitely someone who's there to play coverage, and that's what he does well. So, yeah, he's number 8. Number 7 is, I guess, a hot take. I don't know. I feel like everyone decided that Tyrann Mathieu sucked a few years ago. I don't really know why. I don't know. I get that he has a personality that bothers people, and so he's not the most likable player. I get it. But, I mean, we'll use PFF grades as just an example. 10th highest graded player last year, 5th highest graded the year before. When I watch him for the Saints, I think he does a lot really well. Was consistent, had over 1,000 snaps last year, and they ask him to do a lot, and he lives up to what they ask him to do. Like, I don't get please, in the comments below, tell me why people think that he's not good, because I think he's still really good. I watch him play, and he's fantastic. So, yeah, number 7 on my list. Number 6 is Minkah Fitzpatrick, who, I think Steelers fans would want him to be higher on the list. You can certainly make the argument. I think when he's at his best, he's much higher and probably would be like 4th. But I do think there's been some consistency issues with him. He is someone who goes for the splash play a lot, and when it doesn't work out, can create some issues. But even with that, I still think he's a really good player. I still think his consistency is still pretty good. It's just when we're comparing him to the top 5 guys, couple guys I like a little bit more. You could talk me into it. Also, as someone who, coming off of not the highest snap count years, so that's unfortunate with the injuries. So because of that, docked him a little bit. Definitely at his best, though, he is a lot better than 6, but I decided to go with 6 here. Number 5 on my list, I'm going with Xavier McKinney of the Giants, who... So the thing is, he's kind of a one-year wonder. Like, the question is, how much of last year is real? He was Pro Football Focus's highest-graded coverage player last year, but I can't put him at number 1, obviously, because it's just 1 year. That being said, being the highest-graded coverage player in that situation last year is kind of ridiculous that he was able to pull that off. So, yeah, he's definitely someone who... Yeah, it could be a lot higher on this list next year. Could also be off the list next year if last year was a bit fluky. I don't think it's fluky, though. I think he's really good, so I have him at number 5. And number 4, I'm going Javon Holland, a guy who, it's weird, where he's essentially been in several different defenses every year he's been in the league, 3 years. 2 out of 3 of the years he's played, he's been awesome. 2022, he was not. It wasn't a disaster, but just wasn't awesome. But those other 2 years, I think, are who he is. He is someone who is just incredible, both coverage player and run defense guy, who I think is really good. So, yeah, I have him at number 4 on my list. Number 3, I'm going Kyle Hamilton, who is definitely a do-it-all type of guy for the Ravens. Weirdly, this isn't something I noticed too much. PFF had him graded as one of the worst run defensive safeties in the league, which is kind of surprising. Was still the third highest graded coverage safety in the league, and just a really good safety. I mean, he's awesome. It's just there happen to be 2 safeties who are like just a little better, in my opinion, but he does so much. The Ravens ask so much of him, and he's able to deliver most of the time. So, yeah, and still just 23 years old. So, really good stuff by him. Number 2, I am going Antoine Winfield Jr. A lot of people would have him at number 1 on their list, and I'm a Tampa Bay fan, so I'm definitely biased that way. I'm not going to disagree too hard with people who think he should be number 1. Listen, another do-it-all type player, one of the best pass rushing safeties in the league, maybe the best run defensive safety in the league, and also a great coverage guy, and just has a tendency to make splash plays. These, those goal line fumbles were huge for Tampa Bay and were a huge reason they made the playoffs. So, especially that one against Carolina, has a tendency to make the big play and makes all the small plays as well. There's just one safety I like a little bit more, and that is Jesse Bates III. And let me use PFF grades to make my point. I know they're not everyone's cup of tea, but let me just use it anyway. Antoine Winfield was the PFF's highest graded safety last year with a 90.7 grade. Jesse Bates had a 90.6 grade, so it was just 0.1 off. The pass rush grades, Winfield had a 92.7, Bates had a 59.2. So essentially, Winfield's pass rush grade was such a big gap, but they still just barely, they're essentially tied there. The coverage was a lot better for Bates, is the point I am trying to make. Not that Winfield's coverage was really good. Winfield's great at coverage, but Jesse Bates was unbelievable, I thought, at coverage, and the plays he was able to consistently make game after game, how much ground he was able to cover, all of that stuff. He was PFF's second highest graded player, only behind McKinney, who I talked about earlier. I actually picked Jesse Bates as my pick for who should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year. I thought he was that good. Again, if you watch the film, you can see just how much ground Bates covers, how much he does for Atlanta. He's a superstar level player. The top 3 are all superstars, but I think Bates is the best of them. But that's my thought. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from ya. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.